Hey, good people, it is KaCey, and welcome to another edition of On the Front Porch with me, KaCey. And I'm excited to have you here. Now, if this is your first time, then welcome. And you're probably wondering, well, what does On the Front Porch mean? Well, in a lot of our Southern culture, what it means is it's the entry point to someone's home, which is a sacred place. But it's also the place where your grandmama, your mama, your auntie reminded of who you are, whose you are before you went out into the world. And so it's that place where you find a little bit of comfort and you get some reminders and some hard truths sometimes with a little bit of sweetener. And so we like to have those conversations here. And this is our virtual front porch. And I'm super excited because we have a very special guest on today. All my guests are special. Y'all know if I invite people on the podcast and on the platform, they are doing some amazing things. So I want you all to meet Marcello Bradley. He goes by I am ChellsX if you are in and around these here IG streets, but we're going to get into all of that. And so welcome, Chels, to the front porch. So excited to have you.
What a lemonade. Front porch we supposed to have some lemonade.
I
Supposed to have some
know.
smoke, you know what I'm saying? It's
We're
all
gonna
good.
get it together. We're gonna do this again one day, and we're literally gonna be on the front porch because we're gonna have the lights and the production crew and all of that. It's coming. It's coming.
Okay. Yeah. I feel good. I'm happy to be here. I appreciate you having me, KaCey.
Appreciate you. So tell us a little bit about yourself. What do you want people to know about you?
Ooh, I'm a father. I have 3 daughters, 27 and 2. My 2-year-old runs everything. So there's that.
Good.
Right. I'm a married man. I've been married for 8 years. My wife and I have been together for 18 years. So I'm a family guy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a law enforcement officer. So I've been a police officer for 15 and a half, decade and a half.
Oh, wow.
On 16 years. I'm 9 years from retirement, but I'm playing this game to see how well of a life coach I can be in the next 3 to 5 years before in case I want to get off the exit early.
Okay.
Right. And I'm a certified life coach.
Nice.
Right. So I got the whole help people get their mind right, their heart space right, their communicative spaces right, and just, improve their lives, problem solving, attain goals, and all of that good stuff. So that's what I do. I just like to see people succeed.
No, I love it. I love it. I know I got a chance to meet you and follow you and get to know you a little bit from following you on your own podcast or these conversation series, these, life coaching sessions in a sense that take place. And can you tell us a little bit about the Take Your Power Back network? Like, where did that name come from and what really encourages you or inspires you to really get on live like almost daily to ensure that people think?
Yeah, I mean, I won't give you the whole story of how it came into fruition, right? But just, I started with my own podcast, a one-on-one thing once a week called What's Up With You, where I would interview a person one-on-one and I let them pick the topic. So it was whatever they wanted to talk about.
Yeah.
That kind of transformed into a group show, the Mars Mindset. My group member decided he didn't want to do it anymore. So I said, okay, well, I'll just do me.
Mm-hmm.
And my whole thing is, life is difficult. Life is difficult for everybody. We all go through something. And how do we begin to traverse through this thing that we call life?
Yeah.
And I have this ideology. I have developed an ideology, or you could even call it like a realization that, the only way for us to really be able to attain peace through the suffering is to take control over what we can take control over, right? So we have to let go of the idea of, oh, it's this person's fault, so it's their responsibility to fix it. No,
Right.
it may be their fault, but it's your responsibility to fix your life in the way that you need it to be. So that's how the Take Your Power Back thing came about. So I'm live on Instagram every day. I've been trying to find ways to sneak a day off. And when I say, hey, what y'all think about this? What do you think about if I take Tuesdays off? They're like, no, we don't think taking Tuesdays off too good. I'm like, well, what about Thursday? They're like, I don't think Thursday's too good. I'm like, well, when do I get to take a day off? And they're like, yeah, I mean, Saturday, Sunday, every once in a blue moon.
Maybe.
So, but it's become like a big group therapy session.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so,
It
it
has.
led me to becoming a life coach too. So that's pretty cool. So.
Well, that's interesting. I don't think I knew that. So you weren't a life coach before you started this, kind of as a result of what was happening that inspired you to get your certification?
Yeah, so when it was, because my show technically is still called, Mars Mindset.
Mhm.
When it was Mars Mindset, it was me and the other guy. And what would happen is we would always talk about relationships.
Mm.
And people would come on and they would always want to hear my opinion on
Mm.
relationships, right?
Mhm.
And so I would just give my opinion, like this is what I think, this is what works. And then it kind of just became a, you know what, I think I should just go ahead and just be a life coach and start on that path and follow the yellow brick road to life
Yeah.
coaching. And here I am. So
Yeah. No, I mean, I think it suits you well. So from what I've
thank
been
you.
able to assess and observe, what do you think is the benefit of having kind of like these group sessions, right? I mean, the reality is that some folks may never seek out professional, traditional, type of counseling or therapy, but I think there is something to be said to have a safe space, that you can go to, or a place where you feel welcomed and embraced, to at least throw an idea out there, right? You may not give us all the details, all the specifics, but enough to kind of get some dialogue going. Do you see that as something that can help move a community forward, or is it just important to have a place to vent? And is that enough sometimes to move the community forward?
I think it's both, right? I think, humans, we're pack animals, right? We need each other.
Yeah.
Um, so I think for some people, they just need that space daily to vent, or maybe even not for them to vent, for them to just be present with other people,
Mm-hmm.
right? And feel the love and see how people love on one another and
Yeah.
things like that. And I think because of that, the culture or whatever the case may be, it gets pushed forward because we learn from one another, right? So everybody, for the most part, everybody's open to different people's perspectives, why we view the things the way we view things. We don't always agree, but it's never disrespectful.
Mm-hmm.
So because of that, if your consciousness, if your mind, your heart, your spiritual state of being is, if my mind, my heart, and my spirit is willing to be taught by KaCey, then I get pushed forward. And
Mm-hmm.
because I get pushed forward, I'm a part of the culture. So I get pushed forward and vice versa. So they're happening simultaneously.
Mm-hmm.
And I think different people come for different reasons. I think some people come because they just like, I want some free coaching, right? I'm like, well, I'm here. So if you want your free coaching, this is where you get
Right.
it. And others,
For
they're in
now.
the
For
community
now.
for now, right? For now. I think I'll always do a live or two a week just
Mm-hmm.
because I kind of enjoy it.
Yeah.
But I think it's just the community. I think people really enjoy having, this is what I think. I think as we get older, we lose that high school lunch table
Mm-hmm.
um environment.
Yeah.
And what we've created is we've recreated that virtually. So now it's like, oh, let's go to the high school lunch table and see what everybody talk about today. And so people get that feeling again. So
No, you actually touched on something that literally popped in my head, which was, do we find that people feel more comfortable in 2023, this day and age, to kind of come together and kind of find their tribe, find their village online? Because the world is so different. Some people never returned back into the workplace after the pandemic, right? So they're working at home, they're feeling cut off from whatever that social aspect of getting up and going to work may have provided for them. Health challenges, relationship changes, all of those things sometimes shift the dynamics of our personal friendships and networks and that kind of thing. But we know where we can go Monday through Friday, Monday through Thursday, that kind of thing. So do you think that it is almost like a innovative way, right, to keep community going for folks that kind of need that, what my mama would call that body to body relationship, where you need to be able to
mhm.
touch somebody and interact and engage with someone? Some folks don't have that in their personal lives and their real lives, quote unquote, and so this community kind of provides that for them.
Yeah. I mean, we complain about the negative aspects of the internet and
Yeah.
social media, right? But it also allows people who typically would never even meet each other to become the best of friends, to be able to get advice and hear each other out and know our stories. So one of the things about social media is that it's like the algorithms are written in a way to group like-minded people together. So there's pros and there's cons to that, right? The con is that groupthink becomes something that's more easily accessible, where we all just agree on a political subject matter, and we think that that's what everyone else thinks. Meanwhile, the other people on the other side of the road are like, no, we disagree, and then we fight each other, right? But it also groups people together based on like their desire or their willingness to be open-minded. So if you're open-minded, then you start to find spaces where open-minded people come together, right? And then whereas if you may live somewhere where the people aren't that open-minded, well, with the internet, you have access to all the open-minded people you want.
Very true.
So now you just be like, all right, you know, whatever time it is, whoever show it is, I get to go meet with my open-minded friends and see what they're talking about today. See who agrees, see who disagree.
Yeah. You know, this for me, honestly, and I'm going to pivot in a moment because I know I could probably talk about this for a long time because I'm so just intrigued by it, because this was a world, you know, online that I did not know about until like really end of last year. And it's kind of like, you know, this never ending rabbit hole, because you pop on somebody's live and show, and then someone else says something really, really insightful, and then you begin to follow that person, and then you see them over here, and then you show up over there, and then something else happens over there, and you go yonder, and all, and I'm like, who knew, right? Like I had used live before, but mostly for business to give people updates and, you know, that kind of thing. But never had I thought like, well, let me invite somebody up to have a conversation for everybody else to hear, right? But I'm enjoying it, and learning a lot about myself in the process. I think to your point, when you get connected to folks that allow for that open dialogue and that open mindset, and to be willing to use your experience to share with others too. So I think it's great. I think it's phenomenal. I believe that you're doing something amazing. I'm sure somebody's life has been saved. Like, I'm not being facetious when I say that. When I listen to some of the stories and listen to some of the folks who share their challenges, dilemmas, that kind of thing, this really is life-saving work in a sense, because this may be the only safe space that some of them may have to be able to feel love and care and concern and be poured back into. So and you know, for me, it also makes me think about the other work that you do as a law enforcement, you know, officer, and really in a metropolitan city, community, right? Big city, right? You're in the DMV area. And I think about the work that I do here in Atlanta. And I want your perspective on the difference between like showing up just as an officer and this idea of community policing. And I say that because a lot of the young men that I work with don't have positive interactions with law enforcement officers for a lot of reasons, right? And there's a lot of responsibility on both sides, and I'm very honest about that. And so one of the things I've shared with officers that have taken the time to talk to me, it's like, I want you to get more involved in like community policing. And they know what it is. And so they look at me like, well, what you want me to do, right? What you want me to do? I'm like, park the car, walk to the Chick-fil-A, right? You can still see your car, but when you're rolling up on the boys in your car and the sirens and all the noises on the inside, it's intimidating, right? And so if we're going to bridge the gap, then sometimes they need to see that you're willing to kind of be on their turf in a sense, right? Not because you're chasing them, but because you're enjoying whatever that short 1 block walk is going to offer you. And so I just always ask that question of officers, because you all have a different level of stress, different level of responsibility, because you should and want to, and you have every right to go home to your families as well and be your best whole self. So where's the balance between showing up and doing your job and then realizing that there has to be kind of like an olive branch extended to the community, but the community extending one back as well?
Yeah, I mean, as the officer, all you can do is what you can do. right?
Mhm.
I mean, you know, like you say, you park, you get out, you're like, hey, what up, fellas? How y'all doing? How's everybody doing? You know, you meet and greet people or whatever the case may be. Um, it really just comes down to the receptivity. Now, I know, like, I think in the police world and in those worlds where you're talking about kind of like opposing domains, you a lot of the times the extremes get all of the get all of the attention. But
Mhm.
most people don't care what the police got going on, and the police don't care what most people got going. Right? Like if I'm standing outside, you know, at a station chilling, nobody says anything to me, and I don't say anything to them. So we're actually pretty good,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
I think the fact that as officers, we're the only ones out here that are tasked with taking your freedom. That's a difficult impediment to get through in
Yeah.
terms of connecting with the community.
Yeah.
Because if I'm super nice to you for 2 weeks, but then on that third week you do something and I have to take your freedom, you're not gonna care how good I was the past 2 weeks. You're just gonna be mad at the fact that I'm taking your freedom now.
Yeah.
And so I think it's a big thing of the people who like the police and are, I don't know, maybe the word is like elders or leaders within the community and the police departments coming together and connecting there. That
Mhm.
way, when things happen, even if we can't connect with, you say, the younger Black guys,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Then we can still connect with the rest of the community so that I can come to KaCey and be like, look, KaCey, this
Mhm.
is the reason why this is happening, X, Y, and Z. And you can understand that even if the kid that's going to jail can't,
Yeah.
right? And
Mhm.
that's just how things are gonna have to be because certain aspects of that particular domain is just not gonna happen.
Mhm. Mhm. No, you're right. I'm sitting here thinking about situations where, the boys thought I was gonna come to their rescue, and I have to tell, no, you are wrong. Right, in this situation, it's not about officers being the big bad wolf or the bad guys. Like there's responsibility as well on your part to do what is expected in terms of following the law. And even if you didn't, right, depending on how egregious that rule was broken, it sometimes also rests on your demeanor and your response to someone asking you to not do something, right? And the pushback that you give. And so that's why I make mention that there has to be responsibility on both sides. And so one of the things I also wonder about is this ecosystem of community, right? So law enforcement, nonprofit organizations, faith-based communities, schools, families themselves. I don't know how the DMV area works. I know we don't do a great job here in Atlanta, but in the community that you serve, do you see the ecosystem being effective and working together, or is it a lot of reactivity versus being proactive?
It works pretty well in the DMV,
Mm.
right? Like they do the national night out thing. People are always there for
Mhm.
that. My department, they do different like cookouts and stuff like that. We'll show up to like PG County's cookout,
Mhm.
their big cookout every year. Just throughout the summer, the warm months, people come out and things like that. So the community aspect of it is there. I know within the past maybe year and a half or 2 years, DC had an incident where DC police shot a kid,
Mhm.
right? And the hood was just at the police station, right? Like they just banging on the windows or whatever. And but people in DC as a whole, Black people in DC as a whole, they don't dislike the police the way you would think
Mhm.
they would. They're like, nah, our police officers cool. But like, so what is this about?
Yeah.
And DC ended up releasing the body cam footage as soon as they possibly could, and everybody that was outside just they were like, oh, and everybody just went
Going
home.
home.
So I think the agencies in my area do a really good job of maintaining like connectivity with the leaders within the community
Yeah.
and just the families within the community so that when something happens and it's questionable, there's that pause like, yo, this doesn't happen that much, so let's give the police an opportunity to show us what's really good, as
Right.
opposed to us just feeling like, man, it's always happening, here
Mhm.
we go again. But
Yeah.
I can see from the news in other areas
Woo.
it ain't working too well.
No, we struggling. We struggling down here. We're gonna get it together though. We're gonna get it together.
Yeah.
Do you see any connectivity between being a law enforcement officer and what you do daily when you show up to work and life coaching? Are there any similarities or any threads that you see?
It's all life coaching. It's all
Yeah.
life coaching. It's all life coaching, right? Whether you're the victim of the crime, you're the suspect of the crime, you're the mother of the person who's going to jail, or you're the wife of the guy who's dead, right? It's all some form of coaching. So life coaching is actually really easy, right? Because I'm not coaching you in a stressful state right now per se. Right. Like this is a controlled environment. So you didn't just experience the trauma right here, right now. I may be helping you process through it, right? Or prepare for it because it may be coming. But in the police world, like I said, someone may have just lost their life and I have to talk to you, right? So to do it under that pressure, day in and day out, to do it online or to do it in one-on-one coaching, it's nothing. A lot of the times, in the winter months, we get the homeless people and they're like, yo, I'm not getting off of this bus. And I'm like, yo, if I were you, I probably wouldn't get off this bus either because it's 2 degrees outside, right? But you can't stay on this one, right? So I have to meet them where they are from an emotional standpoint, understand their perspective. And then one thing I always ask people, I say, okay, well, listen, I ask my clients this and I ask people on the streets this. What is your goal? Right? Where are you trying? Where are we going today? Because my goal is to help get you wherever it is you want to go. And once I tell people that on the street, they kind of see like, okay, well, he doesn't want to take me to jail. He's just trying to get me to where it is I want to go. So let's work on it. Let's fit. Does that mean giving you a ride? Is that me calling someone to pick you up? Do I got to call the homeless shelter van to come get you? What is it so that you can be comfortable and as much at peace as you possibly can for the day?
No, that makes perfect sense. It does. And I know if we all took that approach, maybe in all of our industries, we may see some more productivity and success if we're looking to see the goal and not always so tied and married to the process, right? Like, let's figure out what the end result is first, because the process may have to change based on each person or the day or the situation, but we need to get to the desired outcome. And so let's name that, and then we can work our way back, right? Versus being consumed with the process, and then we're not getting to the desired end goal or outcome that we're looking for. I live in this world of logic models, right? And I was talking to somebody yesterday because it's like everybody's focused on output, 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 which are the activities, all the things we do, right? That's supposed to lead to an outcome, which is the goal, which is the destination. But we get hung up on the journey, on the activities, on the outputs, and that they have to be done this way. Well, if it's not working or everything's not lined up and there's no synergy, you're not going to get to what you said you wanted in the first place, which is whatever the end goal is to be someplace safe and warm. We're focused with, nope, you got to get off the bus. I don't care where you go. I don't care how you feeling. There's no empathy of the fact that it's freezing cold outside. And in your mind, you're already bogged down with the fact that you don't have a place to go. Because what I have learned working with people is that it is a different response when I'm uncomfortable for a moment, but I know that that discomfort is going to end at a certain time, right? I can be walking down the street in 2-degree weather, and maybe I even left my jacket at home for some strange reason. I can brave that cold a little bit differently because I know I have keys to a door, to a domain that I can go into to get warm. It's different when you are braving the cold and you don't know if you're going to get out of it at all, right? And so that is going to then trigger your activity and your response and your thinking and even your reasoning when someone is coming and saying, hey, but not this way. So I think it takes a lot, and it leads me to this other question I want to ask you about life coaching. So outside of being an incredible effective listener, what do you think is the single most important characteristic or trait or skill that a life coach should have in order to be effective?
Empathy and validation,
Mm.
right? You have to be, so I'm a very A to B problem solver. Like most people's problems to me, in my mind, I'm like, okay, in my mind, right?
Yeah.
You can talk to me for 50 minutes and tell me all of the things that have occurred and all of the way you felt about it. But after about 10 minutes, I had your solution, right? Now, I mean, I'm not necessarily just going to throw it at you because it's obvious that you're not ready to receive it, right? Because I haven't walked with you through this path enough from your perspective. I haven't, right?
Right.
Right. So being able to be empathetic to the things that people are going through and validating their emotions, their opinions, their perspectives is what makes them receptive when you say, hey, have you tried this?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because if you're telling me a long drawn out story of what happened to you, and in the middle of it, I'm like, well, why don't you just do this?
Yeah.
Right? Your perspective is, yeah, I know I could do that. And people may not be good at explaining it, but their sentiment is, yeah, I know I can do that, but I don't feel like you've heard me. I don't feel like we've connected. I don't feel like you actually care about where it is that I'm trying to go to.
Yeah.
So if I can be empathetic to your situation, validate you, right? Validate the things that you feel about it, and then begin helping you to see and understand solutions. It's more like a flower opening as opposed to me just forcing a solution down your throat.
Yeah.
So I say empathy and validation are probably the two main things outside of, the listening
Yeah.
that helps me to be able to really help people and walk through. One other thing, right? We were talking about the outcomes, like reverse engineering the solution to a problem almost always works,
Mm.
right? Because we almost never know how things are going to become what we want them to become. We just know what we want them to become.
Yeah.
So when you jump to the end, and it takes away the fear of the unknown, right? So, like you said, I'm here, I want to get here, and I don't know what's going to happen here, but I know I can get here. So
Yeah.
whatever's happening here, I'm willing to go through it because I know I'm safe to get here.
Mm.
So when you say to someone, you know, I can help you feel better, I can help you clear your mind, I can help you get out of the code. How do we do that, right? These
Yeah.
are your options. Now, how do we get to say M? We're at A. I can get you to M. These are our options to get to M. Let's go that way. People are more willing to be like, okay, well, let's go. But if
Yeah.
you just say, well, we're at A and I just need you to get off this bus at B and then you can figure your way to M, they're gonna be like, well, because I'm not getting
Right.
off this bus.
Not
So
moving.
now you got a problem.
For sure that this has not become their problems, now your problem too.
Right.
So
We all in the same boat, rowing the same problem boat. So figure this out, Officer Bradley.
yep, pretty much. Sounds about right to me. I saw, when you're scrolling on Instagram, you see a lot of stuff. And I'm laughing, but it's not funny. So I saw a video clip of a Black woman
Uh-huh.
who had acted if she had won a lottery ticket.
Okay.
It was a lot of money, right? It was millions of dollars. Come to find out, she didn't even buy a ticket, right?
Okay.
And so the gas station attendant was like, nope, the winning ticket was bought here this time, whatever, was not this woman. The reason I bring that up is also in conjunction with the whole Carly Russell kind of hoax thing. Because the caption under that video said, Black women are down 10,000 points. Like, what is happening, right?
Y'all
And
taking
so
L's in these streets.
I didn't want to laugh, but I was laugh because I'm like, he's not lying. It's like you work really hard for people to believe you. And then here are these very public, high profile, blatant lies, not lying to cover up something, not lying to benefit from something. You're just lying. And I bring that up because you mentioned empathy and validation. And so I wanted to know, like, Black people are not a monolith, right? We're never all going to be on the same exact page at the same time. But in order for us to move forward, right, and not feel like we always taking these L's, and other people take L's too, right? That's just not the
I
world.
like us though.
Not like, it's not the world we live in, so we're not as, up on their L's. But will empathy help? Like, if we were more empathetic to one another, not assuming the worst, not hoping for the worst, right? Not assuming someone was always going to let us down, not assuming someone was always going to take something from us. Do you think that that could begin to have some cause and effect in rebuilding this strong community? I speak a lot in places, and people are always asking me my perspective, because I'm very critical of Black folks and Black leaders. I'm very critical of the Black middle class, and I'm a product of it. So I'm not talking about a group of people that I don't have like close proximity to. Like, I grew up middle class. Very critical that a lot of us don't go back and sow seeds, pull up, that kind of thing. But do you think that part of this strife or this rift that we have in community is because we see the worst in each other? And if we learn to tap into some empathy and chose the benefit of the doubt first over the assumption of the worst, that we could begin to kind of rebuild some of that trust amongst each other?
I do. I think I don't think we're any different than any other group of people in the sense that we have a negativity bias, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so the negative, the small percentage of the community that's negative becomes the generalization of that particular community. And so because that's just how our brains are wired, right? To find the threat, find the negative, and account and control for that, and make that the general, then it keeps you safe, right? Keeps me safe. So if I say, well, a Black woman, two Black women hurt me, right? One cheated on me and the other one took my money. It's safer for me to assume all of you are the same than to open my mind and my heart up to another one, because to open up, right, means to make myself vulnerable, right? So, but the moment that we begin to be empathetic to one another is the moment that we are like, okay, we can put our guards down, right? Let's have a really open, general conversation. Allow me to tell KaCey a perspective about Black women that KaCey isn't going to like per se, but KaCey's going to be receptive because it comes from empathy, validation, and love, as opposed to, I'm telling you this because I want to, I don't know, get more views or get more subscribers on Instagram, or make a bunch of money.
Right.
I'm genuinely just telling you, this is my perspective, and this is what I think would work, and this is what I think wouldn't work. If I do that without being empathetic, then you're just going to feel attacked, right? And then you're not going to care about my traumas because I didn't care about yours, and then we just like F each other, right? But the thing is nobody else cares about us. So if we don't care about each other, then we're effed, right? Like it's just over, because if Black men and Black women, right, and Black parents and Black children don't connect with one another,
Right.
and we're done, because no one is coming to save us. It's not happening. We've been waiting a long time. It's not, and we've had some great people, right? Like we had Booker T. Washington, W.E.B. Du Bois. We've had Malcolm X. We've had Martin Luther King. We got Barack Obama. Some people love him, some people don't, but we had him, right? Yeah. We had Jesse Jackson.
Yep.
And a whole list of other people along the way. And here we are in 2023 on KaCey's podcast having the same conversation. So what that tells you is that it's on us. It's just on us. The leaders can only get us but so far. Yeah. As far as the community, we have to begin to be empathetic towards each other, care about one another, protect one another, right? Like KaCey, think about it like this, right? Because I know you told me before you had a really good relationship with your father, right? Your father, I'm sure your father was your protector, right? Because you know your father would die for you. If your father told you something you didn't like, you were more receptive to it because you knew that he would put his life on the line for you. So if somebody willing to die for me, when they come give me something or advice or tell me something that I don't want to hear, I'm gonna be like, well, this person would die for me, so I better listen to him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Well, I don't think that Black women feel like a lot of Black men are their protectors. And because if Black women don't feel like Black men are protecting them, then if you're not protecting me, how you gonna check me?
Yeah.
You're not my daddy, right? So
That's,
that's just how it is. So
I mean,
I put at least, and me and Dr. E, my therapist, we talk about this all the time. He puts 100% of the onus on men, right? And I'm not big on percentages. I just say at bare minimum, I put 51% on the men. To me, it's probably more like 85, 90, right? But I just think if you want to be the leader of a society, then it's your responsibility to go and be empathetic and to validate. And that's really what women are, just reactive to men.
Yeah.
You know, if you're nice to a woman, typically she'll be nice to you. If you're mean to her, she's going to be mean to you.
Yeah, she's gonna be real mean.
Real
Like
mean.
10 times whatever it is you gave her. Because we're multipliers. What you give us, we multiply.
Right. That's your job.
That's our job.
Right.
And you know, for me, it is when I look at the work that I do, which is really how like this podcast even came about. Felt like I had so much in me that I wanted to say, and I knew I couldn't just keep going on rants. So I'm like, let me organize these thoughts somehow. But I look at some of, you know, these are my children. I feel like our children are my children, right? It's going to be very hard for me to see even your children and not feel some level of responsibility for them when they're in my physical presence. I don't have to see them doing something that's going to hurt them and be like, oh, well, I'm gonna let her touch this hot stove. Let me wait till her daddy get back. Like, that's just not how I operate. And there's some people who will be like, oh, nope, I don't say nothing to nobody's child. I don't care if I see them going over the cliff, right? I'm just gonna comfort their daddy after the fact. And I'm like, that's asinine to me, right? It is so mind-blowing to me that so many of us are worried about what I call adult bullies. I don't care about adult bullies. I could care less about what you have to say when it comes to children, right? Like you can say whatever you shall about me or whatever your response is, but I'm not going to knowingly allow a child to be in a harmful situation simply because I don't know how their parent is then going to respond. Because what I've learned is that when you operate out of love and out of intention and sincerity, it's a very small group of folks who are then going to give you something different back. Right. So I'm not screaming at your children, not calling them out their name, not grabbing them, but I may startle them enough to be like, oh, well, maybe let me not touch that, you know, so that they stay safe. But I have a incident happening right now where I have an 18-year-old whose father put her out of the house because the girlfriend and the daughter aren't getting along.
Okay.
Right. And the daughter and the girlfriend aren't getting along because the girlfriend's really mad at the daddy. And so instead of having the conversation she needs to have with the man in the house, right? She projects all of her frustration onto this child at the end of the day. And so when I had the conversation with the father, because this is a family I've known for a very long time, I said, this is yours to fix. This is not two women, as he described it, who can't get along in the house, right? Trying to fight for who's going to be the woman of the house. It's like they're both angry at you, and rightfully so, for various things. It's your job to fix it, mend it, find peace and forgiveness separately so that they can then mend whatever relationship that they've had, because they've been in each other's lives for the last 7 to 8 years, right? This isn't just some fly-by-night, whatever. And so for me, it is about family units, whatever that looks like. Everybody doesn't believe in traditional marriage, but you've been with somebody 8, 9 years, you're a family, right? And there's some dynamics there that you have to adjust to, and how you all are communicating with each other now impacting the children, right? And so now this person comes into the space with other young people and they're picking fights. And now they're projecting their frustration, right, onto other folks who have nothing to do with the dynamic in the house. And I see very clearly how this is what we encounter every time we leave our house. Folks are upset, unloved, not protected, been dismissed. And because they don't go and process properly through life coaching, therapy, spiritual counseling, whatever makes sense for them, and they're not having these honest conversations with the folks who have caused the hurt, they're now spreading it out amongst everybody else. And then everybody's walking around hurt and broken and despondent and, wounded by things that were never our fault to begin with. And so that is why I love the empathy piece that you talked about, but even the coming together of Black women, Black men, Black parents, Black children, because when we fix that dynamic, then the friendships will be mended, the work relationships will be effective, right? This larger network and community that we have will then produce something great because the nucleus of what really defines us in a sense or aids in it is intact. And that is our safe space. I tell people like I'm pro-Black. It doesn't mean I'm anti anything and anything else, right? But I want to see Black men and Black women win together. And a lot of that is making choices and sticking with those choices and understanding that the choice you make to be together really is probably one of the single most important things that we can do to get our communities back on track. But we're not making choices, right? We're still being impacted by, I don't know, the vibe ain't right. You got on my nerves today. She said it a little sweeter than you did, and so we don't make these choices, and then the things we complain about still get undone because really it starts with a choice.
Yeah, so like I have clients, right, that my more difficult clients to coach are the ones who are indecisive, right? And I tell people all the time, listen, be honest with you, I have an opinion on what you should do, but to be honest with you, for the most part, it's not my life, it's your life. So it'll be a lot easier for us to get to where it is you want to go if you would make a decision, right? Just pick one, right? Let's pick one so that we can decide what it is we're going to do, right? So if we as Black people, as Black men and Black women, we want to live the best possible lives together, then let's make that decision now, right? We're going to reverse engineer this thing. We want our marriages to last. Okay, so that means when certain things happen, we're not getting divorced. We're not just leaving. And we've established that from the jump, right? And I ain't talking about, physical abuse and all of that crazy stuff. I'm not talking about, the vibe ain't right. Well, the vibe just going to have to not be right for a while, right? You have to figure it out. Go talk to
your side, I'm sleeping on my side. But
right. Put your leg on my leg so we can go to sleep, because we have already established, right, that this is the outcome that we're going towards. And I think that we as Black people collectively and individually, I think we've sacrificed a lot throughout history. And I think that now we've reached a point in America where I don't really have to sacrifice for you. You know what I'm saying? I don't really have to, I don't have to sacrifice for you anymore. I can kind of just go and enjoy my life. The issue with that, which, I mean, I get it, right? But the issue with that is that it slows the progress and the process of the bloodline when we allow just individuals to succeed and go forth, as opposed to us moving together collectively. That's why, me personally, it was important for me to be able to create a community, because I'm conservative on a lot of things. Like, you know what I'm saying? That's just how I see things. I didn't know I was conservative until I started doing it. I'm like, hold on, like, am I a Republican? No, I don't think I'm a Republican, but I'm a little more conservative than everybody else that I'm voting along with.
And most people are, they just won't say it because they're afraid of what the backlash is when they say it. Because when people ask me, well, what are you? I'm like, I'm moderate, like probably conservative leaning moderate, like if I'm being honest. If I think about
Man, look.
my values and the things that I believe in, I don't think everything should go. You know,
No, everything shouldn't go. No.
and I don't need the government all in my business either, right? So like,
Well, I think, I think that I wasn't aware of the history of the political parties
mm,
until, so in 2020, I wasn't going to vote, right? And I had voted. So Al Gore ran in 2000 on my birthday. So Al Gore was the first president I voted for.
Okay,
Right?
nice.
November the 6th, 2000, I turned 18. I was able to vote. I voted Democrat the whole way through, right? I voted for Al Gore, John Kerry, or Barack Obama twice. I voted for Hillary, right? And then when Trump came along, and I never felt any kind of way about Trump, one way or the other. I didn't know. I was just a rich dude, right?
Yeah.
And so when 2020 came, right, I said, I'm not going to vote. But every black person I told I wasn't going to vote, they said, no, you must vote. You have to vote. Like, God's going to strike us down if you don't vote. I'm like, all right, so y'all telling me I got to vote. Okay. Well, I don't want to vote blindly anymore. Right. So I started doing the research. I started doing the research, not on Trump and Biden, because I never liked Joe Biden, right? I thought Obama was cool, but I was never a Joe Biden fan. I agreed and disagreed with Obama on certain things, but it was cool. I wasn't a Joe Biden fan. Like, okay, so you're gonna make me pick between two people that I ain't really rocking with, right? So what I did was I started looking at the history of the parties and the stances on the political issues. And lo and behold, I'm like, wait a minute. These Republicans have some valid viewpoints here, some very important viewpoints here, right? And one day I made a post on Facebook.
Oh Lord,
and I was every kind of coon and Uncle Tom and Uncle Ruckus. And I said, you know what? I can't rock with y'all no more. You know what I'm saying? I just can't rock with y'all no more. So now, I create a community to where, you can be as liberal as you want and you could be as conservative as you want. But we having this conversation under the understanding that we both want a really good outcome for Black people.
Absolutely.
So that's how I, see it.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. Folks see you and they make assumptions, and because of how you show up, how you love on people. For me, how I love on people is not about political party, it's about my faith and about who I am, right? So it really is about what is going to be the best outcome for what it is that we need done, and how we're going to get there. And, I encourage, and I'm not going to get too much on this soapbox, but, I ran for office in Atlanta. I ran for a citywide seat, and it was nonpartisan. So I didn't have to get into declaring what I was, what I wasn't, anything like that. But the one thing that frustrated me to no end is that Black folks, I don't care how educated we are, how many degrees we got and letters behind our name, do not read, do not Google, won't ask questions, not a lick of research when it comes to candidates and issues and platforms. It's just, are you Black? Are you Democrat? I'm going to vote this way. And not digging deep enough to see, well, what is going to be the outcome? And there's been some fallout now, right? Even just on a municipal level of how people voted. And it's like, oh, well, why did you agree to do that? But y'all didn't ask any questions when that person was campaigning. You didn't ask any questions before you went to the ballot box. You just voted because they showed up with your favorite hype song, right? And they have some kinship to you in a sense. And so you thought they was going to rock with you and have your best interest at heart. And now you're fighting that same person that you thought was going to hold you down when you got in there because you refused to ask questions and research and really figure out, how does this decision then impact me? Because for me, politics is local, right? I can vote for the president. It is very few things that the president says, which is why I don't run to the TV for press conferences and all of that, because there's a lot of stuff that got to happen before it trickle down to me. What happens at 55 Trinity Avenue at City Hall? Oh, I'm in that building on Mondays at 1 o'clock, right?
Right.
Because that is going to impact my life. And so I want us as a community to not get so bogged down on party lines and folks who talk good game and not do the diligence that you alluded to, which was at least ask a question, research a point, really find out, how is this going to play out for me? And does this align with what I believe and what I think my values are? And then bigger than that, is this going to align for our community? Is this going to push us back or propel us forward?
Yeah, I think, like you said, that all it takes is for you to ask a question, right? Once you ask a question, because there's explanations for why things happen on both sides.
Yeah.
And it's beneficial to get both perspectives to figure out, okay, which one is, you're going to get both of them, and then you're going to have more of the truth.
Yeah.
This is the trap that I think that we fell into. I think that we got away from voting on what's in our best interest, and we got into voting against who we perceive to be our enemies.
That's good.
Right. So I think this is what I think. The Republicans used to be beneficial for Black people. So for a really long time, we voted conservative, we voted Republican.
Absolutely.
Right. And then Barry Goldwater effed it up. Right. And Lyndon Baines Johnson was like, ooh, we got a whole voting block now, right?
Yep.
So because Barry Goldwater messed it up, it's not even so much that our political views changed, it's that the Republicans began to pander to people that didn't rock with us.
Yeah.
Right. So because of that, and those people who don't rock with us still vote for the right, we feel it's our default mode to vote against those people.
Right.
And I tell my sister this all the time. I don't care what them people got going on, right? Them people are not at my front door. Now, I don't know what's happening in the rest of the country, but these people, they're not here. I don't see them. So just because I disagree with them on certain things doesn't mean that if something is good for them, means that it's bad for me. They like guns. They like to protect themselves. Well, you know what I like? I like guns too. Because if they come over here, I want to exercise my 2A right to protect myself. So I'm not going to vote against my own best interests to spite them, because I'm cutting off my nose to spite my face. So I'm not doing that. Now, if I vote for the left, it's going to be because I've done the research and came to the realization that what the left is offering this time around is beneficial for me. Right. It's just that right now, I think the left has gone ultra left, and I just can't rock with some of their movement, right? And the right, they're not really that harmful, in my opinion. They're harmful in little pieces here, little pieces there, right? But in general, I don't want to pay more taxes. I want to keep my money.
Yeah.
But I think the right messed up with I think the Supreme Court messed up with I don't know if they messed up, but I think in terms of the effective outcomes of voting with the Roe v. Wade thing, I think that's gonna play a role.
That's gonna have.
I think it's gonna play a major role
for a long time. It's
yeah.
But that, I put the onus on us as the citizens, because we in a sense created that, right? Because those Supreme Court justices don't get there unless we vote folks in who we trust their judgment to appoint somebody for life.
Yeah, well, Hillary, that's on Hillary. That's Hillary's fault. You know why? Because Hillary took people for granted. Hillary took the middle of the country for granted. She thought she had it in the bag, and Trump was like, "Nah, I'm about to go holler at these people," right? Yeah. And I think, and me and my dad have had debates. Me and my sister, me and my father-in-law. I said, "I'm gonna tell y'all something, man." I said, the reason people rock with Trump is not so much because they like him per se. It's because he is the closest thing that we collectively have ever had to an outsider who didn't care what Nancy Pelosi or Mitch McConnell had to say, and he was going to go do whatever it was he wanted to do. So it's kind of like people looked at it and said, well, if I was the president, I might not do what he did. Yeah. I might not make the choices he made, but I'm going to run it the way I want to run it. And that's what he did. And that's what people connected to. Yeah. And I said, so That's just kind of how it is. But Hillary took the people for granted. So,
and I mean, that's a lot of what I think overall folks who have had Black support has done for the last 40 years, right? Is take us for granted. Because here's the thing, we are loyal as a people, we are loyal to a fault, right?
And they know this.
And they know this. And it is frustrating to me because it also feels like we're not loyal to the right things at times or loyal to the right people at times. So it's not that we don't have the ability to rally together, right? And really support one another. We show it every day when we support these systems and these institutions and these people that basically play in our face every chance they get, and we go running right back. But yet when we say, look, take that same passion and that same skill and let's direct it over here, it then becomes chaos and it becomes divisive because we're also taking something away that feels comfortable and a part of our collective DNA and personality. And so, I mean, we have what we need to be successful. It's just we won't focus our energy on a common goal. And for me, that goal is going to look differently in each of our lives, but we've got to decide on what it is that we want. And like I said, I can talk about stuff for a long time, so I'm gonna find a way to kind of, it's an
Take
ending
the
point,
exit.
but yeah, because like even with the whole thing with Florida's decision to teach slavery was beneficial to Black Americans, right? And the new social studies curriculum, it is now a state law that from kindergarten to high school, that age appropriate teaching has to include, they say, still the historical facts of how those of African descent made it to the Americas and all of that, but they also have to teach. Not here's a suggestion. It is mandated that teachers have to ensure that students understand that slavery also provided a benefit to Black Americans.
How? What was the benefit?
They learn skills. They learn skills that provided a personal benefit to them, is the language that they use, like verbatim. That it is important that they teach that slavery also provided some level of safety for people who this was not their original homeland. I'm like, it won't be white folks either, but okay. So it's like all this stuff, right, where we're now whitewashing history because we don't want someone else to be uncomfortable. And when I went on my rant the other day, my thing was like, you don't want white people to be uncomfortable. Black folks been uncomfortable since the day we got here. So nobody's caring about our discomfort, right? But we're so concerned about little white kids going home because they learned about slavery and they're going home crying. Oh, but no, but it was good for them, is basically what you're saying. And whatever Florida is going to do, best believe Mississippi and Alabama on its way. North Carolina, Virginia, and Georgia going to find their say, right? And so the rest of the South is going to follow suit in teaching this idea that something that was atrocious, because I probably got white folks who follow me who would probably unfriended me because I said, but y'all didn't teach Jewish people that the Holocaust was beneficial to them.
Right. I don't know. I think so just in general, right? Like, I think what was happening is one extreme begets another extreme, and you end up with the extremes fighting and implementing laws that benefit that they're extreme. And I don't have a problem because I haven't been keeping up with it lately, right? I've fallen out of it because I'm just like, it's too much, right? I can't keep up. It's draining on my energy. Slavery was bad, right? But my problem with the educational system in general is that we've gotten to a point where we're teaching people what to think, not how to think, right? And I'm just like, yo, all I need are the facts, right? Whether or not something is good or bad, technically, is subjective, right? Now, we're all going to agree that slavery was bad. Now, sure, there were some slaves who probably had the option to be free and was like, you know, massa doesn't beat me, so maybe it's not that bad here. But that wasn't the collective.
No.
You know, we didn't have a whole underground railroad to get away from something that was, which is kind of like going to work today. Exactly. No, right? So I think it's important that you teach the facts and then you ask the questions to allow the listener to discern for themselves whether or not something was good or bad. To institute something that says you have to teach that there was something beneficial by enslaving a whole group of people for 400 years, I'm not rocking with that. That just sounds crazy to me. Matter of fact, I'm like, America was built on pushing back against tyranny. That's what George Washington and them was doing. They were like, yo, F you. We're going to do what we want to do. That's what their whole thing was. We don't care about your monarchy, your kings, your queens, and all of that. We about to go over here. First of all, we're going to kill all these people, right? We're going to take over their land, and then we're going to do what we want to do.
Yeah. Yeah. You know.
So, yeah, I mean, you know, but that's kind of tough. And it's just disappointing to me because this is what I think that most people are moderate, right?
Yeah.
I think most people are moderate, but the extremes are the squeakiest wheels. And what they do is they end up pulling the moderates apart, right? So the example I give, and we don't have to dig deep into this, right? But I gave one of my boys a ride at work the other day. And we were sitting at our district, which is right across the street from the station. And I said, look, if we went over to that station right there, and it was 100 people, I said, we're going to ask every single person 2 questions. I said, the first thing we're going to ask them is, do you think a woman should be able to get an abortion at 8 months and 2 weeks? And I said, most people are going to say no. Most people, they're just going to be like, what? No. Right. And then I said, we're going to ask those same people, do you think that a woman that has been raped should be forced to have the rapist baby? I said, most of those people, they're going to say no. Right. I said, you know what that tells me? That tells me that most people are moderate. But that's not where we had these conversations anymore. So we don't, it's not me and KaCey saying, okay, well, KaCey says, well, you know, I'm pro-choice, right? And I say it should go up to 20 weeks. And I say, well, I'm pro-life, but I'll agree to 12 weeks. And then me and KaCey come together and say, well, look, we're the lawmakers. So at 16 weeks is the cutoff. And that's just what we agree upon. We say, nope, if you get raped, you got to have this baby. And you say, nope, I can do it at any point. And if the moderates don't begin to speak up and take control over the conversation, then we're going to keep being run amok by the idea that slavery was a good thing.
You're absolutely right.
And that is not good at all.
No parts of it.
So that's what I think.
No, I agree with you wholeheartedly on that. Well, Charles, tell the people what you got going on.
So I am ChellsX.com. The website is being built. I'm talking to GoDaddy in a couple of days. I'm gonna have the courses on there. So I'll have a 12-course curriculum to help you attain your deepest peace. You'll be able to purchase it at minimum in bundles. I haven't decided if I'm going to allow people to purchase course by course yet. So the courses are a major thing that I have coming. One-on-one coaching, you know, if you want me for a one-on-one coach, you can shoot me a DM or hit me up through the website. There's that. The Instagram thing is growing. I'm there Monday through Friday at 6:30 Eastern. So if you don't have the money for one-on-one coaching, then come to the live, ask me a question. I'll give you coaching right there. And I'm debating doing group coaching, right? Which would be something that maybe it'd be like a small group of 4, 5, or 6 that will lower the cost for people who can't afford the one-on-one coaching. So if y'all are interested in the group coaching or the courses or one-on-one coaching, follow me on Instagram at I am ChellsX. I'm on Facebook as Marcello Bradley. I got shirts. I got merch. I got dotted journals, right? I am ChellsXstore.com for the merch. I got limitless journals. The journals are cool, you know what I'm saying? The journals are cool. All of that good stuff. And if you want to just subscribe to my content, it's patreon.com/IamChellsX, or you can subscribe to my Instagram. I repost the lives and other content too. So that's what I got going on. The main thing is the courses. I would love to get as many people as possible in the courses because I think they're going to help a lot of people.
Absolutely. I concur. Y'all know I don't normally vouch for folks. I'm gonna vouch for this one. So all of his contact information is gonna be down in the caption, in the description box, in case you did not catch it. You're driving, you can jot it down, you can come back to it so that you can copy and paste. But thank you for spending some time with us, and we'll see you next time on the Front Porch.
I appreciate you having me, KaCey.
Thank you.
All right. Take your power.